Welcome to Top Rated Gym Podcast for the gym owners aiming to take their business to the next level. I'm your host, Andre, and I'm interviewing top performance, best rated, highest revenue, fastest growing gyms in the world, regardless if they have a single location or empire of thousands. If you own a gym and looking for ideas how to get more leads, increase conversion, grow your membership base, or facing troubles with customer retention, maybe your employees or operational challenges, this is your podcast. Let's get started. This conversation is about true inspiring leadership. What leadership skills you need to have to build fitness empire. Today, we have an honor of speaking with a true powerhouse in the fitness and franchise industry, Andrew Alfano, the CEO of Retro Fitness, a rapidly growing brand with over 200 locations. Since joining Retro Fitness in 2019, Andrew has been a pivotal force behind the brand's transformation and expansion, positioning it as a leader in a high-value, low-price fitness market. They made headlines in 2022 with their Project Lift initiatives, which aims to open 500 health clubs in Black and Brown communities within the next 5 years. When Andrew came in to transform the brand, it wasn't just to create significant points of differentiation for customers, but also to make it stand out for investors. With over 25 years in experience in retail, hospitality, and fitness, Andrew brings a wealth of knowledge on how to scale businesses and lead them through pivotal transformation. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Andre. I appreciate that.
So let's dive into it. I would love you to share a piece of that story that you shared with me about your background and how you transformed and transitioned from restaurant hospitality into the fitness industry.
Sure, thank you. Well, I began my career in hospitality, as we had talked about. I'm a New Yorker, if you can't tell already from the accent. Grew up on Long Island. My parents, which is a big part of the story, and I think a big part of most people's stories, my dad was a conductor on the Long Island Railroad. Humble means, to say the least. Worked 3 jobs to help pay the bills. My mom worked in a school as a school aide, not making copies, actually dittos back then. For those that are old enough to remember, they used to call him a ditto maker. And listen, we worked really hard. And I think a lot of the work ethic I gained was from my parents, which is, again, a very important part of the story. I had the very good fortune to be accepted and graduated the Culinary Institute of America. I originally thought I wanted to be a chef. And I started out my career in the kitchens, in the restaurants. And it's something that I tell my kids. And I encourage everybody. Everybody should do a stint in the hospitality industry. And we can talk a little bit about why I think that's important. And when I was working in restaurants, there was a new coffee cafe that just opened up right behind one of my restaurants that I was supporting. And it was this little thing you may have heard of, Starbucks. And I went over there for the caramel macchiato. And it was the people that kept me there. Got recruited back in the late 90s. Actually, so early in the maturity cycle of Starbucks, I had to explain to my wife what Starbucks was. So yes, for those that aren't old enough, there was the world before Starbucks. I had a really good fortune of spending 16 years of my career there. Started off as a district manager, overseeing or supporting 10 locations. And about the time I left, I was a senior vice president for the U.S. business, supporting not only the Northeast and the Midwest, but supporting all locations. And then I retired out of there in 2015. I joined a preschool company, spent about 3.5 years there helping mature that brand. And we had the good opportunity to go to a transaction in 2018. I exited in 2019 and joined Retro Fitness. I'd never heard of Retro Fitness. I got introduced to the majority ownership group, which is a family office, and did my diligence on the industry, which we can talk a little bit about that. Yeah. And I just became really passionate about wanting to do it. My family had always been very fitness focused, fitness minded. My wife was a registered dietitian. 2 of my 3 kids were state champions in their relevant sports. And I've been going to a gym since I was a kid. And it really just became a very natural fit. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
And when we look from your perspective, you're just a gift to your brand. You're something that they are incredibly, the whole investors and customers and the members and employees are blessed to have you there. And if you look something that people like you learn leadership and skills in hospitality, people will think, oh, most fitness leaders are born in a gym. But no, we have you who is coming with a totally independent approach and reshaping the industry and bringing a new standard, doing something that nobody else did. And I love how you so many things did for the brand, but let's get one at a time. So, a question for you. I want to know where you get inspiration. What makes you hungry? You have multiple exits, and taking on such a significant role requires some energy and a hunger and drive. What feeds you? Where do you get that?
That's a great question. I don't know. I suspect there's a psychosis associated with that somewhere, but I've always had a very passionate approach to business. I've always had a very insatiable attitude. I always felt and still feel if more is possible, it's our responsibility to figure out what that is and how to go about achieving it. And I do bring it all the way back to my early days in hospitality and at the Culinary Institute of America, much more than a cooking school. You know, they teach you life skills, they teach you law, they teach you restaurant design, but prioritization and leadership skills and core competencies. I think working in restaurants in particular in my early years, high pressure environments, low margins, perishable inventory, long hours. If you were fortunate enough to be successful there, or as I like to say, survive, those are things that carry on. And you really engage and enter all of your future endeavors, feeling like you need to overcome that all the time. The fitness industry, for those that may be interested in getting into it, I had the good fortune of being in multiple industries. And while it sounds eclectic, it really was a very organic journey that I was on. But the fitness industry, in many ways, I tell people, I wish I would have found this 20 years ago.
Wow.
So very different than the restaurant industry, which I just described as probably not the romantic place to work with all the pressures that you have. But listen, in fitness, you not only help people live their best lives, which is so true. It's very, very rewarding from that perspective, but it is reoccurring revenue for people that are looking to get into the business, reoccurring revenue, very low margins, very low labor. You know, from a complexity perspective, it really is one of the lower complex industries that you can get into. And then following a global pandemic, even though we're a couple years removed, make no mistake, people had some hard lessons learned about their health during the pandemic. And hopefully people do well, but we all know the significant illness and the deaths that were associated with it. And COVID didn't clog the hospitals. People with pre-existing conditions clogged the hospitals. And most pre-existing conditions are direct correlation to being overweight or obese.
Yes.
So, you know, there was a lot of personal learning, self-awareness. And for that reason, this is an industry that is, again, not only helping people live their best lives, this is an industry from an economic perspective that is really taking off very rapidly. It's an industry that is very attractive, very lucrative, and very appealing.
Now it all makes sense. You're like a person who went to restaurant industry, challenged, shaped, trained. It's almost like going training with Marine Corps. And then getting out on play field with the kids to dominate a little play of the warfare. Whoa, because like you said, going from one industry that has high pressure, low margin or no margin, perishable inventory, like think about that. If you do nothing, you have less inventory tomorrow than today. No one in the gym have that. And even if you sell protein shakes in the gyms, like they last, their shelf life is long. And that's what I see now, that such a beautiful benefit for you is understanding value in this recurring revenue. Restaurants don't have that. I think that business owners, especially in the fitness industry, are not aware how blessed they are. But you have that awareness. You have that luckiness potential because you came from something that's much harder to manage and you made it work. Now getting into something that's like, oh my God, this is makes such a sense. You remind me about one person, Andrew, my favorite marketer of all time, Jay Abraham. He is the guy who worked with Fortune 100 company, the most paid marketer. And he had the skills of working with so many different industries. He was not industry specific. He was the one who came into real estate industry and applied tactics from the technical industry. He was the one who first came to Wells Fargo and he said, let me see your statement you're sending to people. And they were sending blank envelopes with a little window over the address. It says, you're sending 35 million of these with a blank piece of paper. Why don't you print on the envelope your offer? He's the first one who started that industry of printing on the envelope offers of 35,000 miles and credit cards and upsells. Changed the industry, totally reshaped it just because he cross-pollinated. And that's the gift of not being in conditioned one industry, but really having open mind. Says, okay, I'm seeing something you guys don't. I'm appreciating something you guys don't. Boom.
Well, it's funny that you said that. When I was doing diligence on the industry, when the recruiters first reached out to me and said, would you be interested? My first inclination is, why do I want to get involved in such a crowded space? Because you see gyms all over the place. And what I came to learn very quickly is the fitness industry is divided into 4 sectors. You have the boutiques, which are, for the most part, one-dimensional, very expensive. You have the high-value, high-price clubs, which are the Equinoxes, the country clubs of the world. Then you have the big box gyms, the 40, 50, 60,000 square foot gyms. And then you have the sector that we play in, which is what's called high-value, low-price. And we are the 3rd largest in high-value, low-price. And we can talk a little bit about that. But when I was first doing diligence on the industry, almost to your point, what I came to learn, and this is not a knock, but most everyone that is in the industry has been in the industry forever. And you have a lot of, maybe they rotated companies, but you have a lot of the same people using the same vendors, using the same software, having the same offerings, and you have this giant sea of sameness. Now, coming from a company like Starbucks, I'm a brand guy. I scale businesses, but brand, if we did anything, brand was a really big part of what we created. We were the 5th most recognizable brand in the world when I left Starbucks. When I joined, I didn't even know that was a thing that you could aspire to. But when I was looking at retro fitness, not necessarily through the eyes or a lens of people in fitness, rather through a brand lens, and consumer engagement with a brand is really what we started looking at right from the onset with retro fitness. Not that attaining members, retaining members, that's obviously the job. That's the day-to-day, that's the core business. But the average gym gets the average member 3 to 5 hours a week. That's it, 3 to 5 hours a week. But if you're into a healthy lifestyle, that's happening all the time. So one of the things we wanted to do, or one of the things I wanted to do when I came here, was to, 1, create significant points of differentiation for the consumer. So we came at this from a perspective is, okay, when you're not at within the 4 walls of retro fitness, so we have a strong focus on healthy cooking, a strong focus on nutrition, a strong focus on mental health, in addition to what we have inside the 4 walls for the consumer. We obviously have all the strength and all the cardio, but it can't be just my cardio against your cardio as it relates to the competition. So we do all the classes that the boutiques have. We have inside, we have a smoothie bar. For today's consumer, the millennials, the Gen Z, they see this as not just an indulgent beverage, but meal replacement, recovery. Very important, we have personal training. So for the consumer, within the 4 walls and outside the 4 walls, many points of differentiation. But then conversely, we're a franchise system. So I really wanted to create and disrupt franchising in general. And we are doing what I believe, unless somebody tells me differently, which I'm open to, is we've created significant points of differentiation for the investor. So for your listeners, whether they're an individual who wants to buy themselves a business, or whether they're a family office or they already have some franchises out there, we have put together a suite of services where, as a franchisor, we do all the real estate, we do all the construction, we do all of the build out, design. We have an in-house media agency, we have an in-house accounting services, in-house call center. In fact, we even offer a management agreement, and one of our big clients actually uses us to manage their portfolio on top of it. So not just for fitness, but what we wanted to do was we really wanted to attract a broad spectrum of investors that would be interested in getting into what is a very exciting and very lucrative industry.
Hold your horses, man.
Can you tell I'm excited?
I am feeling now being washed by the fire hose because I'm connecting the dots. I'm a customer. I go there and I have everything. Like I can cancel all other things that I'm doing.
That's right.
You have my Smoothie King right inside of it. You have all the services. It's like I can be in a building, spend more time, enjoy it, spend more money. Like all of additional things that I'm spending. Because for what you're providing I wish you have locations right here. Because I pretty much use 4 businesses and I have to drive or tag along or so. But I'm thinking like, okay, hold on, franchise owner, multiple revenue streams. Damn, share of wallet, tapping deeper into this. Like not depending on one, you have one, second, third one, multiple ones. And then you're telling me, and my mind goes like, okay, I have happy members, and then I got to work my ass off to service all these multiple businesses inside and manage it. And I'm thinking like, this is good, but it comes with a 12 hours work shift. And then you're telling me like, hold on, we do a lot for you. We do manage, we build up, we help you out, we market it for you. We have a call center, we have academy, we have construction, management, name it. I was like, it's too good to be true. And that's why everybody who is listening, you have a powerhouse, because it's not one thing. It's pretty much everything. If you want to make a brand that stands out, you got to think about all 3 pillars: customer, franchisee, investor. And at the end, it's a win-win-win for everybody.
We think so.
Whoa. Listen, where that came from, I speak with the clients all the time. I have a brands in my portfolio, I have guests on my podcast, but you guys are very unique. How did that come out as idea? Is this your thinking? Is this leadership? Is it how you guys keep adding this value for the people around?
I would say that I've been very fortunate to have great mentors, some great leaders. There's no question that I've had the good fortune to be part of Starbucks in the early days of the maturity cycle. That company, we were always evolving, always transforming. And the key learnings, and again, the mentors and the leaders, it was a talent incubator. We didn't know it at the time, but many of my former peers have gone on to very similar type roles and responsibilities. And we all still stay very connected. It's a wonderful group. Clearly, there were many, 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 many people that helped build that company. But there was a handful of us that took it from the 90s through the 2000s into the teens, and brand was at its core. And if more was possible, we were always looking for it. And I remember Howard, saying, and I talked about, being the most admired brand in the world. I remember hearing in the late 90s, that was his goal. And I remember in 1999.
His book is incredible. Pouring a heart, 1 cup a day.
It was incredible. He's incredible. It's everything that you've read. But I remember the goal, the BHAG, was 2,000 by 2,000. And we were like, wow, could you imagine having 2,000 locations? And fast forward.
No way.
But you take that because it becomes ingrained into who you are. And I had this conversation. I have regular town halls with my franchisees, regular town halls that I call Let's Talk with Our People. And I talk about where we are in our maturity cycle. And while I don't see that we're going to be the Starbucks of fitness, but at its core, and the way that company and the way that many other companies in that portion or that part of their maturity cycle, where you don't have the resources, you don't have the tools, you really have to be very MacGyver, if you will. I say, there are people that find this period of time thrilling and invigorating, and there are people that find it daunting and insurmountable. And then you'll have somebody say, well, I'm kind of both. And I'm like, okay, well, you're kind of not. You want the tools and the resources, but you want the benefits of the growth. But these really are 2 very, very distinct people, neither of which are wrong, by the way. But people have to find these moments in time thrilling and invigorating. And I will tell you, curiosity is one of your best friends. To go into an organization that it's in the first couple of chapters of its book, curiosity, and you really have to have this insatiable appetite for wanting to grow. And in a franchise system, this is really important. I think in a franchise, to be a really good franchisor, you really need to care about your franchisees. This is the epitome of partnership. Very different than other organizations or different in corporate. We have the same exact end zone. So helping them drive revenue and create profitability is one of our filters. And the other filter is helping franchisees drive their engagement and satisfaction. And as you would imagine, the two are intimately, bound together forever. You want to find an engaged and satisfied franchisee. It's probably the one that's making money.
Yeah.
And their revenue is our royalty, which is the revenue. So we all wear the same jersey, but you really have to be the passion that I hope you're hearing and feeling that I have for what we're doing. You have to have that same passion for people, that same passion for your franchisees. I'm in the field all the time. I talked to 2 franchisees this morning. We had actually a town hall yesterday with all of our franchisees. You have to be, you're in the people business. And I know that's cliche, but you really have to be passionate about them being successful, because their success inevitably is what keeps the franchisor's lights on. But you got to be passionate about it.
Man, Andrew, you know how many franchisees I talk to? And they're not what you just described. And not in your brand, but in general, wellness fitness world, they are in a war with the franchisor. And because they think they're on 2 different sides, 2 different teams playing against each other. And rarely, sometimes they don't even want to do conferences because they believe they'll get stoned if they show up. Sometimes I went on a conference when the CEO comes on the podium, do a 10-minute speech, leaves the podium, and everybody, ooh, and I was like, my God, what's going on? And when you say something public like, I care, this is team, we wear the same jersey, that's it. But I also understand your background now, because you're coming from an organization that currently operates at 38,000 locations.
Today, yeah.
Something that such a massive organization works in any country, in any culture, giving consistency results across the globe. And now when somebody says, oh my God, 200 locations, too much to handle, you says, come on, you don't know what's too much. Like, this is easy. Let's make it work.
With all due respect, it's not easy. It's relevant. It's relevant to the individual. And I think that's part of it as well. You really need to meet people with where they're at on their journey. Yeah. And if someone's experience is X, it's your responsibility as the franchisor to meet them at that spot that they are at, because regardless of your experience and journey, that is reality for them. Mm-hmm. And it's incumbent upon you as the franchisor. We put an inordinate amount of time, resources, and investment into our tools, resources, and support to help our franchisees, but we try to take it one step further. And by the way, I'm sure every system has what you described. We want everybody to be happy, but you never arrive, and you need to have that mentality of never arriving. So just when you think you've gotten them there, and if in fact on that day everybody's happy and you're fortunate enough for them all to be happy, you have to, again, tomorrow, right? You have to continue to help them do more. But with the tools, resources, and support, one of the things I think is, again, as your listeners are thinking through this, and maybe some franchises that they are considering, we have area managers on my dime as a franchisor, very different than an area manager perhaps in another larger brand, where they become more a brand auditor, where they're going in and making sure the fingerprints and the mirrors aren't cracked. And obviously we have to make sure that is taking place as well. But our area managers that we call franchise business coaches actually work directly with their manager or the franchisee on the ground. They build mutually agreed upon business plans to the point where our franchise business coaches actually bonus on the success of the clubs they're supporting. Real partnership. So they have a really strong vested interest in helping those clubs drive revenue, create profitability. We want to help them retain their people. We want to help them train their people. We do all that. As a franchisor. And I think not just from a fitness industry perspective, that's arguably disruptive to franchising in general. You probably have some franchisors that do elements of those things, but not necessarily all of those things. And for anyone considering a franchise, those are questions that you should definitely be asking, the type of support that you get.
Every time I hear that there's incentive for somebody, that part of my job performance can benefit as well, me, not person I serve, but there's a win-win. There is a benefit for the whole brand. I recorded an episode with Nick Palladino. He is 7-figure gym, local gym, boutique gym, one of the top 3% gyms. He has incentive structure everywhere to the organization. From the retention to the conversion to the lead generation, everybody plays their role, and everybody keeps everybody accountable. It's a freaking amazing. Well, man, last time I spoke with you, you have really nice line that stick to me. I remember that. I wrote it down. You said innovation is your differentiation. Tell me about it. We live in such a dynamic world when everything's changing all the time. How do you guys infuse innovation in retro fitness?
I think it's attitudinal. Hopefully, I bring a lot of that. We're always looking to do more. But if you're a brand, and depending on what books you read or articles, brands should be rapidly or dramatically transforming every 7 to 10 years. Some will tell you every 3 to 5 years. And if you are not evolving as a brand, you risk extinction. Period. End of story. Done. So it's that maybe I don't know if it's a fear of failure or what keeps driving, but if more is possible. And I remember when I first joined Retro Fitness, and it was an industry insider who said, well, there's only so many ways you can sell vanilla ice cream. And I said, well, okay, well, we don't sell vanilla ice cream. And one of the ways to break out of that mold is to continue to challenge the offerings. So I really see us, we're going to grow. We're going to continue to have more clubs across the US. And by the way, we are having international conversations as well. But the reality of it is that you want to continue to evolve the brand so that you are not catching up to others, rather leading others. So I want to be seen as very progressive, very creative. I do believe that my leadership team and I, transformative, innovative, disruptive, we do a lot of beta testing. We do some things that are conventional and edgy, and we do some things that, and test them that are maybe not so conventional to see if they would work. And we want to make sure that as the industry evolves, we are looking back at the things that we helped contribute to ensure we were part of the progressiveness and not reacting, trying to catch up to the progressiveness. That's where we're at. So we're always challenging the status quo. And that is something that as an investor, again, as your listeners are listening to this, there's two questions that I always find as we talk to potential investors, whether it's the individual investor or all the way up to the private equity groups. There's really two questions you should always ask the franchisor. One is, what are you doing to build value for the brand? And what are you doing to determine who you grant franchises to? So money, while this may not sound great for people that don't have a lot of it, but money is almost the easy part, right? So culture, who you allow to come into the system, who stays in the system, culture of the organization is really important. You want to be really careful about who and what groups you're allowing to come into the system. And the second part is the value of the brand, right? So every franchisee has a business and they drive revenue and inevitably they're creating profit. That keeps the lights on. But the true opportunity in creating a wealth situation is the value of the brand. The value of the brand is what creates the multiple when you ultimately have a transaction. And listen, at the end of the day, right, everybody has a first day, everybody has a last day. That's just, maybe your last day is natural attrition, hopefully not, but everybody has a first day, everybody has a last day. And I want to do whatever I can when someone exits to make sure that their last impression is as good as their first impression and that they make as much money as possible on the way out. But the value of the brand is the multiple on the profit that they've created. And that too accentuates the partnership that the franchisor and the franchisee not only should have, but does have.
Whoa. For everybody who's listening, I'm just thinking now, because we serve the fitness community, but I know that people who are in the gym are not only the people who you attract to be your potential franchisee. And before I ask you another question, I want to dig into this one. Where do you look for franchisees? If somebody is in the industry or not, like, who can be a good franchisee, successful franchisee?
Well, we do a lot of training. So I would say anyone who has an entrepreneurial spirit. So there's an old saying, while every franchisee is an entrepreneur, not every entrepreneur should be a franchisee. And what I mean by that is before you think that you may want to join a brand to be a franchisee, you join a franchise for two reasons. You join a franchise because they have proven systems that you want to follow. That's really important. And then the value of the brand. That's really the reason you join a franchise. If you're not someone that is within the fiber of your being, someone that wants to follow systems, someone that wants the training, and by the way, there's no harm in not being that type of person. You're probably more of an entrepreneur, and maybe you open your own business. If you're very creative and you're self-driven and you want to create your own tools and resources and methods, that's fine, but you're probably not built for a franchise. Now, who is a successful franchisee or potential franchisee in our system? You don't necessarily need to be fitness minded. You don't necessarily need to be passionate about fitness as much as be passionate about business. Because again, we do everything. So, just because you have the ability to build muscle, as an example, doesn't necessarily mean you have the ability to build a business. So some of our best franchises come in, they embrace the systems, they embrace the support, they follow and they lean. Not that we don't want to hear, we do want, there's always things to learn. There's always something we can be doing better. So we do want to hear from them. But if someone out there, as an example, is a landscaper, plumber, electrician, and they've have a certain net worth and they feel like this is an industry they want to explore, just come talk to us. Even in exploratory conversation, we can talk about the benefits of joining and why you don't necessarily need to have the experience. Some instances, if you come with experience, you actually have some habits that maybe won't work in the franchise system. So we love to talk to people that, even just from an exploratory perspective, our box is a little on the pricier side. It's a 20,000, it's a 15 to 20,000 square foot box. This is not a lemonade stand. It's a little pricier. So typically people with a good net worth, family offices, groups, if you have a group of people that are looking to make an investment. And we have been attracting a lot of private equity groups coming in and doing territory development. And if you're not aware, we recently did a pretty big deal with BlackRock and their impact opportunities.
I was about to ask that. Yes, please tell me about that. I mean, BlackRock, everybody know, one of the world's largest investment funds out there. They're involved everywhere. Like, first, I would die to know, how did you get them into this? Second, like, what does this project mean for Retro Fitness?
Thank you. So part of building the organization, it wasn't going to be simply about winning at all costs. We were going to build gyms, but this is not going to simply be about building gyms across the country. We are building an exercise, health, and fitness brand, but we're also going to build something with a purpose, something with a mission. And during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of work with state leaders, a lot of work with state health officials, the CDC. And what I came to learn was that the Black and brown communities own the number 1 and number 2 spot in almost every unfavorable health category. And it was kind of flash of the glaringly obvious as far as, what need in the communities are out there. And what resources and tools do I have at my disposal? And we came up as a team, we came up with an initiative called Project Lift. Lift is more of a play on words, it's not an acronym. And it's about lifting people, lifting spirits, and lifting communities, specifically the Black and brown communities. So what we did was we incentivized, or put this incentive out there for people to take this journey with us. And we do have a goal of opening 500 Project Lift initiative locations across the country over the next 5 years. And what we did was we waive the franchise fee.
Wow.
We waive, not defer, 50% of year 1 royalties. Myself, the franchisor, I take a portion of my royalty, not the franchisee. I take a portion of the revenue I make from those clubs and I donate it to a mutually agreed upon organization in those communities. So BlackRock, we were very fortunate. They created the Impact Opportunities Fund, and that is a fund that invests in these types of initiatives. And they came in and they signed up for 4 separate territory agreements, one in Dallas, Fort Worth, another one in Houston, Southeast Florida, and then Queens, Long Island, for a total minimum commitment of doing 80 clubs over the next 5 years. And unbeknownst to us, we later found this out, it wound up being the largest de novo deal in all of fitness. Very fortunate. I think it's a little bit of the right place, right time. I think, we really appreciated the people that were part of the Impact Opportunities Fund. These are wonderful people, good cultural fit. Again, money is the easy part. Clearly, BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, the fact that they even know of a company our size is rewarding and humbling. But more so, we spent about a year together. So they did a year's worth of diligence on us. And again, the fit was right. Beyond, and the money was easy, but the fit, their people, our people, the mission, what we wanted to accomplish in these communities, it was a good natural fit. And we feel very fortunate to have them as partners in those territories.
Wow. And I gotta ask you, man, you are absolutely, and by demonstration and your skills, incredible leader. But I want to ask you a question. Last time I spoke with Tim Schroeder, he talks really highly about you, and now I understand why. My question for you personally is, how do you translate that leadership throughout the organization? I know you have holes, you talk, but is there any specific structure? Because you're a strong voice, you're a lighthouse. How do you touch everybody?
Well, like I said, I'm in the field all the time. I'm with my people all the time. That's really important, both our franchise people as well as our own people. So I have a very strong leadership team. And I think anyone that's looking to get into a brand or into a franchise system, the management team is really important. And we spend an inordinate amount of time together. And whether it be a potential franchisee, I meet with every one of them before they come into the system. I'm not the first person, obviously, but we all meet as a leadership team, anyone that is looking to come into the system from a franchise perspective, but even our employee base. Obviously, I meet with our directors and above, but I just got off the phone a little while ago with one of our area managers that called, and today's 9/11, and we have an initiative going on with the first responders taking the steps. And I just reached out, and I talk to my people all the time, but I also interview everybody that comes into the organization. So clearly, I have my department leaders. You have to allow people to build their own high-performing teams. I don't get involved on the go, no-go component, but I meet with everybody before they join the organization. I never want to be the name on the bottom of an email, if that makes sense. Or the very first time I'm meeting someone is as we're passing in the hall. It's not necessarily Andrew, but the titles can be intimidating at times. And I'm very cognizant of that and very respectful. We've all been the first day at a job. We've all been that young, impressionable employee, if that makes sense. So from the entry-level positions all the way up to our leadership team. Matter of fact, on Monday this week, we had two new people join, and we all ate in the cafe together, and we talked about the organization, and they got to share a little bit about themselves and family orientation, a hospitality mentality, the culture. It's woven into everything that we do. At least we try, right? So as I say these things, and as we talk through all the things we just talked to, it all sounds wonderful and romantic and perfect. It's far from it. The reality is we go home every day wanting to know what we could have done differently, what we could have done better. And as leaders at any level, I think that inherently is everybody's responsibility to embrace there is a better way of doing everything. And what could I have done differently today? So throughout this conversation, you've been so generous with your time, the one thing I wouldn't want to portray is perfection by any stretch of the imagination, but relentless, insatiable approach to improvement.
Yeah.
Everybody can have that.
Constant, never-ending improvement, Kanaya. We have that as one of the values. Like, if you're not growing, you're dying. There's no just flat line.
That's it.
But the fact that you are such accessible, and the fact that you're spending time with you with them, it's trust factor throughout the organization. I know companies who build special elevators for executives to go to the top floor. They know they want to disconnect, not connect. Those are the companies with the last generation of success, where they're cashing out, capitalizing, and moving on. Because that is something that people are there for short term and not staying long. Wow, man. We can talk and talk. And I think we will need to have the serious, not an episode here.
Well, you're very kind. You're very kind, Andre.
I gotta ask you this: leaders are learners.
They are.
Give me one book, one place, one podcast, one conference. Give me something where I can go learn what you're learning, or not me, but people who are listening to this. Referrizer is giving your gym a special 90-day free trial of the Reputation Max package. Oh my God. With this, you can get 3 to 10 times more reviews, automate everything and even use AI to help reply to reviews, all while keeping your gym safe from bad one-star reviews. This offer is only for short time, and it's available for the first 10 listeners of each episode. Go to topratergym.com/3 free months to grab this deal.
Listen, it's a great statement. I'm always reading. I'm always, I don't know if there's one that I can give you. I will tell you, I've recently started following, and he's been around for a long time, but it's a recent obsession of mine is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he has the Pump Club. And I now get an email every morning from the Pump Club that talks about daily motivation and different topics. And again, he might be a little cliche or because he's been around and you think of him being fitness. And I don't necessarily follow him today because of fitness. I will tell you what I am so enamored by him and Sylvester Stallone for two different reasons. But Arnold Schwarzenegger, he has spent his entire career reinventing himself and transforming himself. And I would never try to equate my career with his, but the different sectors or the different industries that he had success in, and every time, he entered that, he came at it with new eyes, not, here's what I can bring because who I am, rather, what can I learn because I'm just around. And whether it be his bodybuilding, whether it be politics, whether it be whatever he does, movies, I mean, he just insatiable attitude to wanting to learn more, wanting to do more. And Sylvester Stallone, very similarly, we are doing, I love your podcast, by the way, so you are one of them. We should not mistake the person that I'm talking to for one that I follow, but Sylvester Stallone, because we are starting podcasts. And his daughters, my daughters will probably kill me for mentioning them, but his daughters have a podcast. And while they're very much geared towards a different demographic than myself, they have had the parents on, Sylvester Stallone and Jennifer Flavin. And what you learn is the family values. And we talk about culture a number of times on today's podcast. So I have come to have a whole different level of appreciation for the Stallone family, for being just
behind the scene,
and
real
genuine.
hardcore source.
This is A-list, top 1%. He could be anywhere at any time doing anything. And what you come to learn is how humble, how genuine, how authentic he is, and how that has transferred to his kids, at least from my seat and listening to podcasts. Well, I don't know them by any stretch of the imagination, but you ask, how do I transfer that passion, continuous improvement? First of all, I hope I do. I can't say that I do, but I always try. But it is people like the Arnolds of the world, the Sylvesters of the world. You have to constantly reinvent yourself. You have to constantly transform. You have to embrace the only thing that won't change is change. And until you embrace those things, you may, in fact, find yourself being everybody else.
Yeah, and I love his books. I love his Netflix movie that came out. I love his speaking in front of the universities.
Yeah.
He is such an incredible guy with a story who said, hey, nobody from Austria ever competed in a bodybuilding competition. And he killed it. He came to US and he was called like Baby Belly. He lost. And I was like, oh my God, the worst day in my life. But he got on. Next year, he won it. 10 years in a row, he won it. I was like, okay, I'm obviously best. I need to leave the spot so somebody else can as well have a joy. He went in the movie industry. Totally. Like, guy with the accent. Everybody says, you are not fit. Get out.
And he conquered it.
I'll be back. He invented that line. It wasn't part of the script.
Yeah, I heard that.
I was like, okay, I nailed this one. Let me see next. I cannot become president of the country. I'm not born here, but I can be president of the biggest state. Boom. Become one of the most successful politicians in California. Wow. So it's incredible. And he still doesn't stop.
Doesn't stop.
He doesn't stop. He keeps on innovating, keeps on bringing value, keeps on adding it. I mean, his personal life now through different means, you see what drives him. Because we will never become more than our self-imposed limitations. And by this, you're learning what is their power. Recently, I watched a movie. Oh my God, it's on Netflix. It's eye-opening. It's called Alexander the Great, historical figure. 2,000 years later, we are still studying it. And it was a coincidence that I read the book called Cybernetics, 300 years old book that was rewritten for today's days. And that's where the line comes up. And when you think why Alexander Macedonian was the greatest military leader of all time, it was because of his mindset. He has a thought that he's a son of God, Zeus, and he has to do this, and he got believing he's invincible. He went and did crazy things nobody else did, and he annihilated every military opposition that ever faced, 10 times bigger than them. It was suicidal mission, everyone. And then everybody started believing, we are invincible, let's just go. I highly recommend to watch it because it's a freaking inspiring. Oh my God.
I will.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And we got to wrap it up. There's the people now thinking, how do I find more about Andrew? How do I find more about his brand? And I got to ask you, how can somebody find more information about retro fitness or opportunity or to connect with you and your team?
Pretty simple. We're very approachable, very accessible. It's retrofitness.com. We have a site on there, Own a Retro. You can connect in. We are easy to access. And I'm on LinkedIn. Here's what happens when my phone rings. I answer it. So I'd love to have a conversation with folks that might be interested in retro or honestly, just their own journey. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of great mentors and people who have helped me make decisions. And maybe you're not interested necessarily in retro, but maybe interested in franchising in general. We love to network and we love helping people. So more than happy to have that conversation.
Guys, we're coming to the end with another incredible, fascinating conversation. Andrew, you're a gift to our community. Your conversation today, your story, your advice, your wisdom, your different approach as a gold. And for everybody listening, I learned a lot, and I believe everybody who is participating in this community. And thank you for sharing true story behind building a powerhouse like Retro Fitness. For everybody else who's listening, more of these stories are coming soon. Make sure you click like, subscribe, and I'll see you next episode. Andrew, you're the best. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
If you are a gym owner looking to become top-rated gym in your area, visit topratedgym.com and grab our free 30-day reputation boost. That's topratedgym.com. I'll add it to the show notes for you. Don't forget to share this with your friends. Stay strong, stay motivated, and keep pushing your gym to the top. Until next time, this is Andre signing off.